Australia will choose its first ever poet laureate, but the details on who it will be remain a mystery. For the first time, the Australian government will sponsor a poet to represent the country, but the details of how they will be selected remain a mystery. The government has budgeted $19.3 million to establish Writers Australia, a new body charged with the task of establishing the nation's first national poet laureate from 2025. Australian Poetry, the national body for poetry, is enthusiastic about the importance and beauty of the art form and hopes the first appointment will be a current, working poet. The post should first be awarded to a senior poet with a substantial legacy in Australian poetry, says award-winning poet and Gunai woman Curly Saunders. Title: Navigating Postpartum Health, a Challenge for Athletes. Finding an appropriate healthcare professional to help manage an athlete's return to sport postpartum can be tricky, particularly at an amateur level. Canberra Chill hockey team player Jessica Clements had to pause her career due to childbirth, and finding the right support to return post-birth wasn't easy. Women's health physiotherapist Lauren Riddle encourages clubs to prioritize women's health specialists and consulting for players. Riddle said a lack of knowledge about available options may be preventing athletes from seeking needed help. Clements encourages everyone in her position to see a trusted physio. It's not always going to be the same after birth, but definitely seeing a physio, I would highly recommend it to anyone, she said. North Korean teenage escapee becomes successful entrepreneur in South Korea. Ju Chan-yang fled North Korea a decade ago at only 19, following years of starvation and struggling to survive. She was part of the Jangmadang generation, who grew up during the famine of the 1990s and found entrepreneurial skills that are coming in handy in capitalist South Korea. The underground trading system in North Korea was a drastic shift from the country's reliance on central planning. Yang now owns a Korean restaurant that employs North Koreans and sells homemade jewelry. She also plans to grow her own vegetables to use in the restaurant. Title: Residents concerned as housing project could endanger Gouldian finches. Darwin residents are expressing their disappointment and frustration after Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek approved a housing development project that could have a significant impact on the endangered Gouldian finch. The development was initially halted last year after the rare bird was discovered in the area. Despite the impacts on the finch being deemed unacceptable, Plibersek has allowed the project to proceed with variations to its approval conditions. The development will see 800 homes built in Darwin's northern suburbs, an area currently experiencing a housing crisis. Environmentalists and residents are calling for better protection of the threatened species and their habitats. Search for missing Gippsland man continues months after suspicious disappearance. Police are still searching for 57-year-old John Swayati, who disappeared over 3 months ago in the Ironbark Track area of Goongerra. Mr. Swayati left his Morwell home with an acquaintance in a white Toyota Hiace and was last seen on foot surveying the surroundings at about 8 a.m. on March 17. Despite multiple searches, he has not been found, and police are treating his disappearance as suspicious. Detective Inspector David Dunstan has urged anyone with information to come forward, as Mr. Swayati's loved ones are desperate for answers. Link. Title: Lower bowel cancer screening age to save lives, mother tells Parliament. A mother has called on the Australian government to lower the bowel cancer screening age after her 41-year-old daughter died from the disease less than 12 weeks after diagnosis. Carrie Ann Adams's symptoms were initially mistaken for flu, and doctors didn't suspect bowel cancer due to her age. Her mother, Anne Chekilo, is now campaigning to lower the screening age from 50, hoping to prevent more cases of early-onset bowel cancer. Bowel Cancer Australia's medical director, Graham Newstead, said the screening age should be lowered to at least 45 to reduce the risk of death from the disease. Title: Former foster child triumphs to become a paramedic despite facing dark days. Jasmine Mallam, a former foster child, is defying the odds by studying to become a paramedic despite facing dark days when she left foster care at the age of 18. Jasmine admits that the transition to adulthood was challenging and without support from Anglicare Victoria, she wouldn't have made it through. After receiving support, she went on to win the Young Citizen of the Year award in 2019 and 2020. With every state and territory now providing formal foster care until the age of 21, Jasmine is pleased that younger people in foster care will receive the support they need. Victorian councillors call for more governance training ahead of 2024 elections. Victorian councillors are requesting additional training for those new to local government before the 2024 elections, with calls for more comprehensive background checks. The Council's appointed Monitor for Governance suggests that more training and understanding of governance, legal environments, financial literacy, and strategy are crucial for performing their duties correctly. The Victorian Local Governance Association agrees that councillors should receive more support for governance training, claiming that local government is responsible for providing essential services and programs despite being the least resourced level of government. The need for additional education and understanding of the role is urgent with the upcoming local council elections. Title: Polar air mass brings frosty weather, while a tropical rain band makes its way to Australia. A polar air mass is making its way over southeastern Australia, causing widespread frost and plunging temperatures. The cold snap is expected to last until the end of the week. Sydneysiders experienced the coldest June morning on record, with temperatures dropping to 1.8 degrees Celsius. Other towns such as Mudgee and Glen Innes in New South Wales fell to -6°C, and Bathurst and Orange both neared -5°C. On the other side of the country, a tropical rain band is brewing in the northwest and is expected to bring rainfall to every state and territory by the end of the week. Title: Hobart Council doubles rates on short-stay properties to tackle housing shortage. Hobart City Council has decided to increase rates on short-stay accommodation and vacant residential land to counter the city's housing crisis. The decision comes as the city faces a significant shortage of long-term rentals due to the conversion of long-term rental properties to short-stay accommodation. The new rates system, effective from July, will double the amount charged for short-stay accommodation properties. The move is expected to impact around 700 properties, currently operated as short-stay accommodation. Other Australian municipalities are also trying new strategies to address the issue, including capping the length of time a home can be used for short-stay accommodation. Union says modern slavery must end as seafarer wage crackdown finds $4 million owed to workers. The International Transport Workers Federation (ITF) has identified over $4 million in unpaid seafarer wages in a week-long blitz of ports along the New South Wales coast. The operation was part of the ITF's Nowhere to Hide campaign and included inspections on 77 foreign-owned vessels at Port Kembla, Newcastle, and Sydney. The inspections revealed that many ships around Australia had exploited workers on them. The ITF says the situation for many seafarers is modern-day slavery. The union is calling for an end to these practices and for better working conditions for seafarers. The world's fish are getting smaller. We're trying to figure out why. Fish around the world have declined in size as water temperatures warm, but the reason why is poorly understood. Our experiments offer some clues as we prepare for a warmer future with smaller fish. Fisheries are a potential confounding factor when studying the effect of warmer waters on fish, because fisheries often target large fish. Removing these larger fish from the population benefits the survival of fish that mature quickly and reproduce at a younger age, when they are smaller. Our experiments keeping fish in warmer water offer some crucial clues, and may help us learn how to prepare for a warmer future with smaller fish. Warning for WA health workers over unlawful detention in hospitals. Medical law researcher, Michael Eburn, has warned health workers in West Australia that they cannot legally keep someone in the hospital against their wishes. The issue of unlawful detention in hospitals was raised at an Australian Nursing Federation legal conference in Perth after an ABC News story highlighted the issue earlier this year. While it remains lawful to detain people deemed mentally ill under the Mental Health Act, autonomy is paramount when a patient is competent. Health professionals need to consider patient choice and respect patient autonomy. The Parliamentary Inspector of WA's Corruption and Crime Commission (CCC) said there was a need to ensure that all hospital staff knew where they stood. It's official, the Voice referendum is happening. Here's what comes next. After 24 years, Australians will get to decide on a change to the Constitution. The Senate has passed a referendum on an Indigenous voice to Parliament, which means a vote must occur before the year's end. The Voice would be an independent advisory body, advising on matters affecting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians. Voters will have to decide whether they approve the proposed alteration. The government hasn't set a date for the referendum yet, but it must occur no earlier than August and no later than December. Before the polling day, the Electoral Commission will issue a pamphlet summarising the yes and no cases. Ukraine claims 8 villages now retaken from Russian forces during counteroffensive. Ukraine has announced the capture of an 8th village from Russian forces as part of its counteroffensive. The settlement, Prt-Katki, is situated near the most direct route to the Azov Sea coast, and was described by Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar as heavily fortified. Ukrainian troops have reportedly advanced by up to 7 kilometers into Russian lines in 2 weeks, capturing 113 square kilometers of land. The gains are the latest in the long-anticipated counteroffensive to retake the 18% of its territory occupied by Russia. Analysts suggest the main phase of the offensive has yet to begin. Elderly man's body found at scene of New South Wales house fire. An elderly man in his 70s was discovered dead at the rear of a property in Johns River, New South Wales, by emergency services responding to a house fire call just before midnight on Monday. Fire and Rescue New South Wales and Rural Fire Service were called to the Riddles Brush Road home to extinguish the blaze. New South Wales police are currently investigating the incident and have established a crime scene. A report will be prepared for the coroner. Source: UN adopts world's first treaty to protect marine biodiversity. The UN has adopted the world's first treaty to protect the high seas and preserve marine biodiversity in international waters after nearly 20 years of effort. Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said the agreement will give the ocean a fighting chance. Once 60 countries ratify the agreement, it will take effect. The treaty aims to put 30% of the world's land and sea under environmental protection by 2030, creating protected areas on the high seas and governing sharing benefits derived from marine genetic resources beyond national jurisdictions. The UN's Sustainable Development Goals Summit in September is the first day for signature. Title: A historic move, bills introduced to legalise cannabis in New South Wales, Victoria and Western Australia. The Legalise Cannabis Party has taken a historic step by introducing bills to legalise cannabis for personal use in 3 states of Australia on the same day. The bill will allow people over the age of 18 to grow up to 6 cannabis plants in their households and gift small quantities to others. However, it will prohibit driving under the influence of the drug and access to people under 18. The move aims to divert cannabis users from the criminal justice system, which has seen more than 700,000 cannabis-related offences nationally since 2010 and an estimated $8 billion in profits for organised crime. The reform has the backing of politicians from both sides of Parliament, reflecting the public's growing support for regulation. Hashtags: Fresh blood-stained evidence uncovered in AC/DC manager's death. A special commission of inquiry into LGBT hate attacks in New South Wales has found new evidence including a bloodstain on the jeans of AC/DC manager Crispin Dye, who died from head injuries in hospital on Christmas Day in 1993. Witnesses have previously claimed that 3 men of Pacific Islander appearance were seen standing over his unconscious body in a Surrey Hills street. The case has been delayed after the inquiry revealed several items of Mr. Dye's clothing were submitted for forensic testing for the first time. Justice John Sakar, who is heading the inquiry, described police record keeping as borderline shambolic. Title: Online sleuths help locate butcher shop truck stolen in brazen heist. A truck carrying an estimated $10,000 worth of meat was stolen in a brazen heist in Mooloolaba. Thanks to the power of social media, eagle-eyed customers of the butcher shop were able to help track down the truck, leading to the arrest of the alleged culprit. The truck had been driven down the Bruce Highway, damaging around 30 vehicles, and was even disguised with silver paint. The business was able to recover their truck, but had to throw away the 600 kilograms of meat it was carrying. The accused was charged with multiple offenses, including robbery with violence.